Greetings, and welcome back to LA Quill. Today we're marching straight onto the battlefield to talk about one of the greatest challenges in fantasy writing: battle scenes. Now, if you're anything like me, you've probably read at least one battle that felt as though it lasted approximately 14 years, featured 73,000 sword swings, and somehow left you wondering if anyone actually cared why the fight was happening in the first place. On the other hand, you've probably also read battles that had you gripping the edge of your chair, whispering, "Don't you dare kill that character," while pretending you were definitely not emotionally invested. Those are the battles we're chasing today. Not fights that are merely loud, but fights that matter. When many new writers begin planning a battle scene, the first question they often ask is, how does everyone fight? I would argue that this is actually the second question. The first question should always be, why does anyone care? Readers don't become emotionally attached to a sword. They become attached to the person holding it. If the battle could disappear from your story without changing anything important, then congratulations. You've written an expensive fireworks display. Very entertaining for a few moments, perhaps, but ultimately forgotten once the smoke clears. Think about your favorite battles in fantasy literature. Chances are you don't remember every tactical moment. You probably couldn't sketch the battlefield from memory. What you do remember is the feeling. You remember the desperate last stand. You remember the impossible decision. You remember the moment someone chose to sacrifice everything because there simply wasn't any other option. Emotion is the glue that keeps action stuck in the reader's memory. The clanging swords are merely the soundtrack. This is why stakes come before steel. Before anyone draws a blade, ask yourself what happens if your hero loses. Better yet, ask what happens if they win. Victory can sometimes be just as costly as defeat. Perhaps they save the kingdom but lose a lifelong friend. Perhaps they win the duel but destroy the trust of the person they hope to protect. A battle without consequences is like a dragon without fire. It's technically still there, but everyone is just a little disappointed. Not every battle has to involve armies stretching from horizon to horizon either. Fantasy sometimes gives us the impression that every story must eventually include approximately 80,000 soldiers running dramatically downhill. In reality, some of the most memorable confrontations involve only two people. A duel between siblings can carry more emotional weight than an entire war if the relationship has been built carefully. Scale doesn't create importance. Investment does. Perspective also changes everything. Imagine standing in the middle of a battlefield. You can't see the elegant tactical diagram floating above everyone's head. You don't know what the enemy commander is planning. You know there's mud in your boots, and smoke in your lungs, and someone nearby is shouting something that you sincerely hope isn't your name. Limiting perspective often makes battles feel far more immersive, because readers experience the confusion alongside the characters, instead of watching comfortably from a magical flying camera. One of the easiest traps to fall into is describing every single movement. Swing, block, duck, stab. Repeat another 600 times. After a while, the fight begins to resemble an instructional fencing manual rather than an exciting story. Readers don't actually need every movement cataloged. They need the important moments. The surprise attack, the near miss, the instant someone realizes they're losing. Think of yourself less as a security camera recording every second, and more as a film editor choosing exactly which moments deserve the spotlight. In fact, your descriptions should almost always serve double duty. If a sword strike only tells us that a sword moved from left to right, you've probably wasted a sentence. But if that same strike reveals panic, exhaustion, desperation, arrogance, or growing confidence, suddenly the action is pulling double shifts. Every movement becomes part of the character's emotional journey, rather than simply documenting their exercise routine. Your character should not feel like action figures smashing into one another. They should feel like people making impossible decisions one heartbeat at a time. Speaking of heartbeats, pacing is one of your greatest storytelling weapons. During moments of intense danger, short sentences accelerate the reader's pulse. Everything feels immediate. Then, just when the reader thinks they can barely breathe, you slow things down. A longer sentence lets them notice the burning village, the wounded friend, or the exhausted soldier barely holding a shield together. Good battle scenes breathe. They sprint, they stagger, and then they sprint again. Much like the characters themselves. Fantasy gives us another wonderful toy to play with: magic. Unfortunately, magic can also accidentally destroy tension faster than almost anything else. If your wizard can solve every problem by pointing dramatically at the sky until something explodes, readers eventually stop worrying. Spectacle is exciting exactly because it has limits. Magic should demand sacrifice. Perhaps it drains strength. Perhaps it requires rare ingredients. Perhaps every spell risks terrible consequences. When power comes with a price tag, readers start paying attention. The same principle applies to every supernatural creature you introduce. Dragons should change battle strategy completely. Giant creatures reshape the landscape. Necromancers alter morale. A magical army shouldn't simply behave like ordinary soldiers wearing slightly more interesting hats. Think through how these extraordinary elements would realistically influence tactics, fear, logistics, and decision-making. Fantasy becomes believable not because it's realistic, but because it's internally consistent. Of course, battles aren't fought in empty white rooms. The environment is constantly participating. Rain makes weapons slippery. Snow hides some footprints, while creating others. Dense forests restrict cavalry. Narrow bridges become choke points. Even sunlight matters when someone is charging directly into it. The battlefield itself should feel almost like another character, one that occasionally decides it dislikes everyone equally. Then there's the simple reality that people get tired. This may sound obvious, but fictional heroes occasionally seem powered by an infinite supply of dramatic determination. Swinging a heavy weapon is exhausting. Running in armor is exhausting. Staying terrified for hours is exhausting. Fatigue changes judgment. Pain changes priorities. Even the greatest warrior eventually reaches the point where lifting a sword feels like trying to raise an entire castle. Those physical limitations don't weaken your story. They strengthen it because readers believe what they're seeing. One thing I particularly enjoy is watching characters change because of combat, rather than simply surviving it. Battles are pressure cookers. They expose qualities that peaceful conversations never really reveal. A frightened apprentice may discover remarkable courage. A legendary general may freeze when faced with personal loss. An arrogant noble might finally understand the cost of sending others into danger. Victory isn't merely defeating the enemy. Sometimes victory is becoming a different person by the time the fighting ends. And please do not forget the aftermath. Honestly, I think the aftermath is often more interesting than the battle itself. Once the shouting stops, what remains? Empty chairs at dinner tables, damaged cities, political consequences, quiet guilt, celebration mixed with grief. The survivors don't simply dust themselves off and head cheerfully toward the next quest marker. Every battle should leave fingerprints on your world. Those fingerprints are what convince readers that the conflict truly mattered. Finally, remember that readers rarely fall in love with choreography. They fall in love with characters. They care about the person standing behind the shield far more than the shield itself. So whenever you're writing a battle scene and wondering whether to spend another paragraph describing an elaborate exchange of sword techniques, ask yourself a different question instead. What is my character feeling right now? More often than not, the answer to that question will produce a far stronger scene than another dozen beautifully described parries ever could. Battle scenes are opportunities for transformation. They are where promises are tested, fears are confronted, friendships are proven, and legends are born. The swords, arrows, spells, and dragons certainly make for wonderful decorations, but they are not the heart of the story. The heart is always the person making one impossible choice after another, while the world seems determined to collapse around them. If you can capture that, readers won't simply remember your battles. They'll remember why those battles mattered, long after they've turned the final page. And that's our tale from LA Quill today. I'd love to hear about your favorite battle scenes in fantasy, or tell me one you've written yourself and what made it memorable. Until next time, may your stories always be magical.